Hi everyone, my name's Diabutor, and today I'm going to walk you through the questline of everyone's favorite jar buddy, Alexander, so that you can get the Shard of Alexander easily. The Shard of Alexander is one of the best talismans in the game, because it increases the damage of most Ashes of War by 15%. You get the Shard of Alexander at the end of Alexander's questline. His quest is pretty long, but there are only 3 mandatory encounters with him that you need to do in order to complete it and get the Shard of Alexander. So today, I'm going to walk you through all 3 of them. He also has a couple optional encounters, and I'm going to show you one in particular that I see a lot of people get stuck on. Use the timestamps in the description to skip around the video if you've already completed part of the quest, or if you want to skip that optional encounter. And remember to leave a like, share the video, and consider subscribing. It really helps me out. The first mandatory step of Alexander's questline is to kill General Radahn at Redmane Castle, and then speak to Alexander afterwards. In order to be able to fight Radahn, you need to start the Radahn Festival at Redmane Castle. The easiest way to do this is to take the Grand Lift of Dectus up to the Altus Plateau, and then rest at any site of grace in the Altus Plateau. In order to use the Grand Lift of Dectus, you need to get the 2 halves of the Dectus Medallion. The first one is located at Fort Height in southeast Limgrave. You can easily run through the fort. There's a couple things to grab here, but I just ran through it for the purpose of this video. And in the tower at the top of it, there is a chest which has the left half of the Dectus Medallion. After that, you can get the right half of the medallion from Fort Faroth and the Dragon Barrow in northern Leynd. It's actually a pretty straightforward route to get to Fort Faroth from Limgrave, but I prefer to take a shortcut. So if you go over to the Third Church of Marika, just to the northeast of it, there's a little pond that has a teleporter. It's hidden in some bushes, but it shouldn't be too hard to find because it's glowing like a teleporter, and so that takes you up to the Bestial Sanctum in northeast Dragon Barrow. From there, you just follow the road south. You'll come to this giant bridge that has a dragon on it, but you can just run past the dragon, he won't catch you. And then you'll come to a minor Erd tree at the end of the bridge. If you go around behind the Erd tree, there's a spirit spring, and you can use Torrent to jump up the spirit spring, and that takes you straight to Fort Faroth. And again, just like in Fort Height, all you gotta do is just run through the fort. There's some bats, but you can just run past them really easily. And there's a ladder you can climb up, and at the top of it, there is a chest with the right half of the Dectus Medallion. You can check your key items inventory, scroll down past all your crystal tiers, and you'll see the 2 halves of the medallion if you want to make sure that you actually have them. Once you have both of them, you can bring them over to the Grand Lift of Dectus in northern Liurnia. So in order to get up here, you need to get onto this Bellum Highway. You can take a teleporter from the Academy Gate. If you go into the main Academy Gate, there's a teleporter that takes you up there. But if you haven't done that yet, then instead, you can just run up the lake from the Academy Gate town. And at these cliffs here, there's a spirit spring that'll take you all the way on top of the cliff up here to the Bellum Highway, and then you just follow the road to the Grand Lift. Once you're at the Grand Lift, all you gotta do is just run up to it, stand on the little pedestal in between the 2 statues here, and hoist the medallion, and that will trigger a cutscene, and it will take you up to the Altus Plateau. Once you're in the Altus Plateau, look directly to your north, and there's a site of grace behind these trees over here, and you have to activate the grace and then rest at it. You have to actually sit down at the grace, and that will trigger the Radahn Festival. If you don't sit at it, then it won't trigger the festival. After that, you can just go to Leynd, follow the road straight south, and it takes you to the Impassable Great Bridge. If the Radahn Festival is active, then this teleporter will be active. So if the teleporter is not active, then you haven't activated the festival. But if the festival is active, the teleporter will be active, and you can take it directly into Redmane Castle, and then all you gotta do is go up the stairs and head north. There'll be a site of grace on the side here, and you can go up into the courtyard where you have an encounter with Alexander. You don't have to talk to him here, but, you know, everyone likes talking to Alexander. He's a cool guy. After that, head up the steps and talk to Jaren, and that'll trigger the cutscene and then the Radahn boss fight. Make sure you finish his dialogue after the cutscene so you get the heartening cry gesture. If you just run away before he finishes talking, then you don't get the gesture, and you have to go into New Game Plus to get it. So make sure you finish his dialogue. Anyway, so you're going to go north through the chapel and take an elevator down to the beach. For the sake of keeping this video relatively short, I'm not going to show you a full tutorial for how to beat Radahn, but in the description I'll have my video about fighting him and killing him easily linked so that you can watch that instead in case you need a guide. But basically, for Radahn, you want to be around level 60, you want to have 40 vigor and a plus 12 weapon, that way you'll be doing enough damage and it'll have enough health to be able to survive. On screen, I just showed a couple tunnels you can go to where you can get smithing stones to upgrade your weapons to plus 12. That's really important because you want to be actually doing damage to Radahn. In this footage, I'm a high level and I have maxed out weapons. I am in New Game Plus 2, but Radahn is still pretty weak in New Game Plus 2, so I'm not using this as like a tutorial for how to fight him. But you see that I'm using Bleed against him, and he's super weak to all status effects like I mentioned in that text box, so I procced a couple bleeds on him and I killed him super fast. If you're having trouble with him, you should check out my guide down in the description, where I'll show you how to beat him using Poison and Scarlet Rot, because he's super weak to Poison and Rot. Anyway, once he's dead, you won't be able to fast travel out of his arena until you come up to the tallest dune, which is here on the map in case you need a reference point, because there's a bunch of dunes in the arena. Come up to the tallest dune and activate the Grace so you can leave. From the Grace, if you turn and look to your south, you will meet Alexander. So you need to talk to Alexander here and completely exhaust his dialogue. A lot of people kill Radahn, and then they go to Fort Laiedd, which is the next step, and they're like, oh, why isn't Alexander here? It's because you didn't talk to him here. So you need to talk to him until he repeats the dialogue, just you wait when we next meet, ha ha ha, whatever, and that will move him to the next part of the quest. Before we go to Fort Laiedd, I want to show the one optional part of this quest that a lot of people get hung up on. So you can meet Alexander in eastern Liurnia near Jarburg, and you'll find him stuck in a hole like he's your stepbrother or something. This is similar to the very first encounter you can have with him in Limgrave, where he asks you to hit him, and then you just hit him with a couple charged heavy attacks and he pops out of the hole. But the problem here is that he's damaged after the Radahn fight, so when you try to hit him, he's too stuck, and if you keep attacking him, he will die. So when he tells you to stop so he doesn't die, and then go talk to him, and he will suggest to you that, similar to your stepbrother, he really needs to be lubricated so that this can be done a lot more smoothly. So what we're going to do is go and get some oil pots in order to lubricate him so that we can get him out of the hole safely. So in order to get oil pots, you need to get a crafting recipe from the Shifra River. You can access the Shifra River from the Shifra River well, say that 3 times fast, in East Limgrave, right underneath the minor Erd tree in the Mistwood. So here's where the tree is, and then right next to it, there's this circular structure. There's an elevator here. On my save file, it's already down, so I had to pull the lever and wait for it. But it'll be there when you come to it, and you can just step on the elevator, and that'll take you down into the Shifra River. And then I'm just going to skip through this, or, speed up through it, because it's a bit of a run. But basically, you're going in a straight line. Just come up these steps. There's another elevator that was already up, but I cut that part out. And then you just follow it up the river, and this takes you to this site of grace called the Shifra River Bank. Now, you won't have the map of the area yet if you haven't been here, so here's where the map is. I'll show you. From the site of grace, if you look to the east, you'll see a staircase with a bunch of pillars. On the first pillar on the right, there is a corpse that has an item on it. That item is the map, so make sure you grab that so you can see what you're doing. Once you have the map, we're coming over to the second aqueduct that's up here, so you can mark that or whatever. It's pretty easy to find because there's one aqueduct before it and then you run up to it. So you'll see there's all these wooden scaffolding here. You're going to climb up the ladder here. There's a couple of the ancestral followers here. So this guy, they're super easy to kill, but the thing is that this second guy usually hears you fight the first one, and he'll come down the ladder, so be careful not to get kicked off the ladder by him. Once they're dead, you can drop down to this lower scaffolding here, and then you're just going to run across this stone stuff over here behind the waterfall, and this will take you to a nomadic merchant, and he sells Nomadic Warriors Cookbook number 17, which gives you the recipe for oil pots, and more importantly soap, which we as Elden Ring gamers desperately need. In order to craft the oil pots, you're going to need to buy the crafting kit and a cracked pot from Kale, who can be found at the Church of Ella at the beginning of the game. So once you have those, you can go to your crafting recipe. You're going to need a cracked pot, which, like I just said, we got from Kale, and also a melted mushroom. So melted mushrooms can be found all over Shifra River. Chances are you picked up a couple on your way up here, but in case you haven't, you can go back to the Shifra River Bank site of grace, and there's some rocks you can climb up, and right at the top of it there is a melted mushroom. So you only need one, but if you want to farm them, this is the place to do it. You just climb up the rocks, grab the mushroom, sit at the grace to make it respawn, and then repeat. So once you have the stuff to make the oil pots, make an oil pot. You can equip it into your hotbar or on your pouch, or even just use it from your inventory if you want. Equip it, and we're going to throw it at Alexander to get him nice and lubed up like a Friday night. Hell yeah. And now you can safely hit him with a couple charged R2s, and that'll pop him out of the hole. After that, you can talk to him and he will give you 3 exalted flesh, which is nice, and he has some dialogue about Jarberg. This is an optional encounter, but I just want to show it because it's the one that people get stuck on. For the second mandatory step of Alexander's quest, we need to head over to Fort Laiedd in Mt Gelmir and find Alexander in a lava pool where we need to talk to him. So there's nothing to kill here or anything like that, it's just a bunch of running. So in order to get to Fort Laiedd, you need to get to the Seethewater River. It's confusing if you look at it on the map isn't really detailed, so you don't get there from the rest of Mt Gelmir like the Volcano Manor, you get here from the Erdtree Gazing Hill down in the Altus Plateau. So chances are you've been to the Erdtree Gazing Hill, but if not, it's just north of the Grand Lift of Dectus, or if you come from the Ruin-strewn Precipice, it's just to the east of the Abandoned Coffin. In this video, we came from the Grand Lift of Dectus, so I just want to show real quick. From the Altus Plateau, Site of Grace, which is right next to the Grand Lift of Dectus, just go north up the hill, and then you can drop down the cliffs at the Lux Ruins, and this takes you right to the Erdtree Gazing Hill. Make sure you grab the golden seed off of the tree that's there. But anyway, so from the Erdtree Gazing Hill, you're going to go north up this hill, and that'll take you to the Wyndham Ruins. There's a Tibia Mariner here that you can kill, but he's not part of this, so we're just going to run past him. And if you head west, that'll take you to the Seethewater River, and that's how we're going to get over to Fort Laiedd. So head north up the hill. This will take you up to the Wyndham Ruins. There's a Tibia Mariner. He spawns a bunch of skeletons, including giant ones, so be careful not to get smacked by them, like I almost did just there. Once you get to the Seethewater River, there's a Site of Grace you can grab. And then I'm going to skip the running of this part because it's just a straight line straight through the river. There's a little fork there, but you just take the left fork and it takes you straight over to the Seethewater Terminus, and with it, Fort Laiedd. I am going to show one thing though, because in the Seethewater River there are like hotspot geyser things that can do a bunch of damage to you, these things. And as you can see, I didn't even mean to get hit by it there. I accidentally got hit by it. So those do a bunch of damage. Be careful not to get owned by them. Wait for it to stop, and then you can run past it, and just watch your step. At the end of the river, you will find the Seethewater Terminus Site of Grace, and you'll see directly to your west on the hill is Fort Laiedd. We aren't going to the fort itself, but instead we're going to go around the corner to the south, where we're going to find a lava pool. So this lava pool has a magma worm in it. You should kill it, because I forget what it drops, but it drops something cool, and it drops a dragon heart. And you know, it's a boss fight. It's a game about fighting bosses. You should kill it. But you don't have to. It's a little unsafe not to kill it, but if you don't want to fight it, you don't have to. So you can just follow the eastern cliff wall here, and that takes you over to where Alexander is, behind these rocks here. So just keep an eye on the magma worm, because if it's still aggroed on you, it might come and hit you through the rocks, and if it hits Alexander, I think it can kill him, so be careful of that. So there's a rock you can safely stand on so that you're not taking damage from the lava, and it lets you talk to Alexander from a distance, and he will give you the jar helm. And after that, he tells you that he wants to head over to the Mountaintops of the Giants so that he can temper himself in a hotter forge and thus become super strong. So in order to progress his quest, we need to go kill the fire giant at the Mountaintops of the Giants. This is the long pain in the ass part of the quest. There's a few bosses we need to kill, but mainly it's just a pain in the ass to have to go all the way across the map. So in order to get to the mountaintops, we need to go through Leyndell. In order to get to Leyndell, we need to get 2 great runes. So we already killed Radahn, and he gave us a great rune, so we already have one of them. And then the easiest other one to get is Godric in Stormveil Castle. If you have killed Radahn, then you should have absolutely no trouble killing Godric at all. So fight Godric and grab his great rune. Once you have the great rune, you can check how many you have in your inventory, by the way. Go to your key items and you can scroll down to see the great runes. So once you have at least 2 great runes, you need to go to the round table hold and talk to any of the finger reader in the room with the 2 fingers. If you don't talk to her, then you can't enter Leyndell. So you need to get the 2 great runes and then talk to her, and then we can go into Leyndell. So in order to get inside of Leyndell, we need to go across this bridge here on the northeast side of it. So there's like a big main gate that a lot of people find, and they're like, oh, why doesn't it open? That's not the right one. You need to go around to the northeast side of it. The nearest Site of Grace is the Hermit Merchant Shack over here, so make sure you grab it. There's a boss we need to kill here, and if you don't have this grace, then it's even more of a pain in the ass to come back if you die or whatever. The boss we're going to fight is the Draconic Tree Sentinel, so you should have at least 40 vigor, preferably as much as 50 by this point, and you should have a plus 15 weapon, or plus 6 if it's a somber weapon, so you can get the bell bearings from Ray Lucaria Crystal Tunnel and the Sealed Tunnel These will allow you to buy smithing stones 1, 2, 3, and 4 from the Twin Maiden Husks at the Round Table Hold. That'll get your weapon up to plus 12. And then in the Sealed Tunnel, Altus Tunnel, Old Altus Tunnel, and Celia Crystal Tunnel, you can get smithing stone 5s that'll let you bring your weapons up to plus 15. So the Draconic Tree Sentinel is kind of tough, but he's actually really easy if you just focus on like breaking his stance. You're going to see in this, I have a maxed out weapon, but I am a new game +2, so his health is scaled up. So you should be doing pretty similar damage to me if you use some buffs and have your weapon upgraded to plus 15. You see I'm using a greatsword, in this case it's my trusty Flamberge. If you put Piercing Fang or Impaling Thrust on a greatsword, then it does 30 poise damage. Draconic Tree Sentinel only has 80 poise, so it only takes 3 Piercing Fangs or Impaling Thrusts to poise break him, and that makes it super easy to just bully him and fuck him up. So that's what I did. He shouldn't be too hard if you have the Vigor and if your weapon is upgraded to plus 15. After that, go through across the bridge, and that'll take you into the capital. That door there might have a seal on it that says you need 2 Great Runes. If it has that seal, and you have 2 Great Runes, then that means you need to talk to Enya at the Round Table Hold. She literally gives you permission to enter Leyndell only if you have 2 Great Runes, and you have to talk to her. Anyway, so we need to get up to the Erdtree, up at the Erdtree Sanctuary up there, and the way we're going to do that is by climbing up the Dragon's Wing to get on top of this wall that you see off in the distance. So there's where we're going to climb up the wing, and you can see there's these pairs of buildings here. There's 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. One of them is destroyed by the wing because it's underneath the wing. So you're also going to see there's a big main road that goes through the city, and that main road links up with this area that connects to where the dragon's at. So we're going to use that as a reference to put a waypoint to make it easy to get there. So you follow the road, and then you can see the spot with the buildings, 1, 2, 3, and then the broken one, 4. So you can put a waypoint over here and confirm that it's where it's supposed to be by looking at it. So that's where we're going. If you need a reference for where to go, a lot of people get lost in Leyndell because it's kind of like a maze. So I like to jump off the wall by the rampart where we just were, and you can jump down onto the rooftops, and that just takes you straight to the main road. And then once you get to the spot with the Erdtree Avatar, you make a right, and that takes you to this site of grace called Avenue Balcony. So that's where we need to go. Then you just head down the stairs. Be careful of the 3 knights that are in this area, especially the archer. He will fuck you up. Make your way over to the wing, and then you can just run up it, and that will take you up to the wall. Jump across, climb up the ladder, and then it's pretty much a straight shot up to the Erdtree from here. Up ahead past this guy, there's a site of grace called West Capital Rampart. Make sure you grab that, because it's the nearest site of grace to the boss that we're about to fight. So you can run past that gargoyle. He won't hear you if you just run behind him, and then you go up the roots, and that takes you straight up to here, called the Erdtree Sanctuary, where we need to go. So you're going to fight Godfrey, First Elden Lord. If you have the plus 15 weapon and 40 to 50 vigor, then he shouldn't be too much trouble. Just dodge his combos and then hit him. I like using Piercing Fang because he's weak to pierce damage. He's also weak to lightning. So like another strategy I like to use against him is you get an S-stock or a thrusting sword of some kind, and you give it the lightning affinity, and then you can easily roll and then just hit, right? So you roll, dodge an attack, hit, roll, hit, and that makes it super easy to avoid getting hit by him and to do a fuckload of damage to him. But he shouldn't be too hard. Once he's dead, make sure you grab this site of grace in case you fall to your death here, because I've done that a few times. And again, we're going to go up this route here, and then after that, it's just a straight path over to the Elden Throne. So before we can get to the Mountaintops of the Giants, we need to kill Morgott up here in Leyndell, so that's why we came up here. So again, you should have 40 to 50 vigor, preferably 50, and a plus 15 weapon, and you can get Morgott's Shackle. I'll leave a link to where you can find it down in the description. It's sold by Patches in Murkwater Cave in Limgrave. So the Shackle makes this fight super easy. Just cast your stuff, your buffs, drink your physic, cast Golden Vow, whatever, before you enter the fight. And then when the fight starts, you hit him with Morgott's Shackle. You can use this twice on him and only in the first phase, right? So I hit him with the Shackle, hit him with a couple Piercing Fangs. Once he gets up, I hit him with the Shackle again, and then fuck him up some more. I got a Poise Break because I hit him with 3 Piercing Fangs. He only has 80 Poise, so that let me get the riposte on him. And then he didn't go into phase 2 here, so I got hit a couple times, but you can see I have the vigor to survive, so it's not a problem. And then I just hit him with another Piercing Fang, and he died. So he shouldn't be too tough as long as your shit is upgraded, you have some buffs, and you use Morgott Shackle. After that, you try to go into the Erd Tree, it doesn't let you pass, and when you come back, a Site of Grace will appear. You activate the Grace and sit at it, and Melina will talk to you. She will give you the rolled medallion and tell you to head east to the Mountaintops of the Giants, which is where we're going, of course. So I'm in New Game Plus, so the marker doesn't appear, but if you're in your first New Game cycle, then you'll get a marker over here that says the rolled route. So that'll show you where you need to go. A lot of people don't see where they're supposed to go here. So again, there's the main road that goes to Leyndell, and if you look at the map, you'll see it leads directly to the rolled route. So we're going to head back over to the Avenue balcony, and then you just follow the road to the east. That takes you to this area. You head up the steps, and there's an elevator that you find. You take the elevator up, and that brings you up to a bridge thing up here, and you're going to go straight ahead across the bridge. So the nearest Site of Grace to this is the Avenue balcony, unfortunately, so don't die. This knight, you can just outrun him. If you keep running, he pretty much can never hit you, so you don't have to worry too much about him if you just run. And then once you get to a point on the bridge, he'll just lose interest and turn around and walk away. So when you get to the elevator, you'll see to the east that there's the Divine Tower of East Altus, where you can activate Morgott's Great Rune. But there's a boss fight on the bridge there, so I just want to point this out. You should go down the elevator to the Forbidden Lands and grab the Site of Grace here. So that way, if you die during the boss fight on the bridge here, you don't have to run all the way back from the Avenue balcony, because that is a huge pain in the ass. So make sure you grab this elevator first. Anyway, we're not going to the Divine Tower for this video. I just wanted to show that. You're going to head east through the Forbidden Lands. You won't have the map of the area, but it's a straight path, so it's pretty easy to make your way through. Just head east and north. You'll meet this Blackblade Kindred, but you can just run past him. There's a Site of Grace on the right side, and once you sit at it, it will reset the Blackblade Kindred, so he won't murder you. And then you're just going to go up to the Grand Lift of Rold, and like the Grand Lift of Tectus, you're going to use the medallion, and that will take you up to the Mountaintops of the Giants. So the Fire Giant and his forge are all the way at the end of the Mountaintops of the Giants. Fortunately, the developers are nice enough to give you the first map of the area, right at the beginning of it. So I'm not going to show this entire run because it's a long-ass run, but I do want to point out two things. So first of all, there's the Zamor ruins here, just south of the first Site of Grace that you grab up here in the Mountaintops. So you're going to want to head over to this and go down into the cellar here, and inside the cellar is a chest which contains Smithing Stone Miner's Bell Bearing 3. Here's where it's at on the map in case you have trouble finding the cellar. That bell bearing lets you buy infinite smithing stones 5 and 6, so you can get any weapon up to plus 18, which is the recommended level for fighting the Fire Giant, because you want to keep upgrading your weapons as you go into more difficult areas, obviously. So, I also want to point out the route that you're going to take on the map. So you got to go up north, you go across a long-ass wall thing, there's a golem that's going to be shooting at you, but it's easy to dodge the arrows. You run past that, you'll come up to where this telescope is, and there's a Site of Grace there. There's a lake here, you go south across the lake, there's a dragon that'll appear there, but you can just run past him, you don't have to fight him. After the lake, you'll see a fort called the Guardian's Garrison. There's a Site of Grace next to that, so make sure you grab it. And then you're going to head south across this chain. At the end of the chain, there's a Site of Grace and the second map of the area, so once you have those, it'll be easy to navigate. And from there, you just keep heading south, and that'll take you over to these two chains that you see on the map. In between them is a Site of Grace called Foot of the Forge. Make sure you grab that, because it's the closest one to the Fire Giant, and this little island thing that you see here is the Fire Giant's arena. So for the Fire Giant, you should have 50 to 60 Vigor, preferably 60. You should have your weapon upgraded to at least plus 18 or plus 7 to 8 if it's a somber weapon. Also, real quick, you have the option to summon Alexander for this fight. You don't have to, but if you want the extra help, he's pretty strong, so it's nice to have him. So the Fire Giant is weak to slash damage, and he's pretty much weak to anything except for fire or holy damage, but especially to slash damage. If you have your weapon upgraded to at least plus 18, and you use some buffs like Golden Vow, Flame Grant Me Strength, to increase your physical damage or whatever, focus on attacking his left ankle in the first phase, and then in the second phase you're going to want to go for his hands. If you focus on attacking his weak spots and you have your shit upgraded and you have at least 50 Vigor, then he shouldn't be too much of a challenge for you. I'll link my video about fighting him down in the description in case you need extra help. Once he's dead, make sure you grab the Site of Grace by these 2 trees here, because we need to go up this chain here, and as you saw, I almost fell and fucking died there. It's a pain in the ass if you have to run all the way back from the foot of the forge, so make sure you grab the Site of Grace that's close to the forge, get on top of the forge, and run around it, and you will find another Site of Grace, sit down at it, and you'll have the option to talk to Melina. This is a pretty pivotal story moment, so I'm not going to spoil it. There are a couple quests. I know that Corin's quest changes once you talk to Melina here, so there might be a couple things that you want to do before doing this, but once you talk to Melina, one thing leads to another, and you end up in Farum Azula. So now, the final mandatory step of Farum Azula is to kill the Godskin Duo so that we can get to Alexander, because you have to kill the Godskin Duo to get to him, and then we're going to talk to Alexander and persuade him to give us the Shard of Alexander. So Farum Azula is a pretty straightforward path. There's a couple side areas, but you know, it's easy to just stay on the main path. There's a Site of Grace here in this hallway, so grab it, and then, you know, very, very carefully just, you know, navigate your way past the Beastmen here. And I'm just going to speed through this whole thing. I'm probably going to shut up too, because I don't have much to say. Dragon, optional, you don't have to fight it, just run past it. Now the Site of Grace. And then you can head to the right here, and this will take you over to the Tempest-facing balcony. There is a Smithing Stone Miner's Bell Bearing on the right there. I didn't grab it. Make sure you grab that. I believe that's a Somber Stone Miner's Bell Bearing number 4, I want to say. So make sure you grab that, because that's an important item. Once you get down here, you can see off in the distance is Alexander on top of that roof over there. So, of course, we're heading toward him. So navigate down here. Once you get over to this Site of Grace, this is called Dragon Temple. So this is right before the Godskin Duo, but in between this Grace and the boss arena, there's a couple banished knights that are a pain in the ass to deal with every time in case you die. So if you turn around from the Grace, you can drop down onto that staircase and then jump down here to this lower area. You'll come to this hallway with a banished knight. You can throw like a fan daggers, throwing daggers, a kukri or something at the wall here, and that'll get his attention, so you can just really easily sneak past him. And then after that, you just make a left, and that brings you over to the Dragon Temple Transept Site of Grace, which directly connects to the Godskin Duo's arena, making it easier to reset the fight in case you die. So for this fight, you're going to want at least 50 to 60 Vigor. You should have at least a plus 21 weapon. There's plenty of smithing stones in Farum Azula, so you can upgrade your shit past plus 18. They're weak to slash and bleed, so that's what I'd recommend using. In my case, I'm using an Occult Flamberge, so it's not a slash weapon, but it does do a bunch of bleed buildup. So these guys are super weak to sleep, so if you have a bunch of sleep pots, which you can easily get the materials for, I would just Google it. I'll probably leave a link down to the Trina Zulli's page, so that you can easily get the Trina Zulli's to make sleep pots. If you can't get sleep pots, then you can use like the Sword of St. Trina instead. That requires 14 intelligence, but that's easy to get. So put them to sleep because they're super weak to sleep. They fall asleep for 60 seconds, and then you can cast your buffs and stuff and just wail on them, and they should be super easy to kill. You saw there as he was dying, I kept hitting his body because they take damage during their death animation, so make sure you take advantage of that too. You're going to have to kill at least 3 of them. You might have to kill 4 depending on how much damage you actually do after they die. You see there, I keep whacking his body and it keeps dropping the boss health bar. So once the big boss health bar is depleted, that's when the fight is over. So if they keep respawning, just keep killing them. You can be ready for them and then just immediately throw a sleep pot at the ground. Don't lock onto them to throw the sleep pot. You want to throw it at the ground at their feet so that it hits them with the splash damage, and that puts them to sleep, and it's a lot more consistent that way. So once they're dead, grab the Site of Grace, and you're going to head north out the door. I didn't mean to throw that sleep pot. I wanted to distract the Beastman with a throwing knife, but I threw a sleep pot by accident. But anyway, so go past the Beastmen and the dogs. So I want to pause here. On the right, that doorway takes you to where you need to go to get to the end of Farum Azula and progress the plot. We're going to go on the left and go around the wall here, where there's a staircase that takes us up to Alexander. So I tried to hide from this Beastman, but I did a bad job of it, and he saw me, so I just ran past him. Go up the steps, and you'll see a doorway ahead of you, and then on your left inside the doorway, there's an imp statue that requires 2 stone sword keys. These are super easy to find. By the time you get here, you probably have like 30 of them, so I'm not even going to bother telling you where to get stone sword keys. You can Google them if you need to. That takes you to an elevator, which brings you up to the Dragon Temple Lift, is what this site of grace is called. And from here, there's the ruin up there that I was just looking at, and that's where Alexander is. So there's a bunch of skeletal beastmen here, but you can run past them really easily. You'll come to these ruins here, so just jump across it. If you miss, you can easily just run back around and get up on top of it and try again. So, don't miss, though, preferably. Anyway, so keep going across the ruins, and you will find Alexander. So when you talk to him, he's going to ask you to fight him to the death. If you kill him before talking to him, then he doesn't drop Shard of Alexander, he will drop Warrior Jar Shard. I see a lot of people make that mistake. They just come up here and immediately fucking kill him thinking they get Shard. You have to talk to him first. So he says, talk to me, let me know when you're ready. When you talk to him a second time, that starts the fight. And now, when you kill him during the fight, he will drop Shard of Alexander. By the way, did you know that the jars are sleepy boys and they're weak to sleep pots? It's a waste of a sleep pot, but I just want to show that because why not? I had them equipped. But anyway, so he shouldn't be too tough. If you need the extra help, he's weak to strike weapons like hammers and stuff. But he shouldn't be too hard to kill. Once you beat him, he'll talk to you. If you want to skip his dialogue and speed things up a bit, you can just hit him again and kill him early. And congratulations, you have now received the Shard of Alexander. You also get Alexander's Innards, which is an item used for Jar Baron's quest, but I'm not going to go into detail about that right now because that's even longer and more fucking complicated than Alexander's quest. You can find Jar Baron over in Jarburg, and his quest is a whole fucking thing. I'm not even going to talk about it right now. But anyway, so that's it. I hope you found that helpful and or entertaining. Leave any questions in the comments down below. Please leave a like, share the video, consider subscribing if you found this helpful. As of the time of recording this, I just hit 2,000 subscribers, and I'm very proud of that, so thank you all for supporting me, and let's hope that my channel continues to grow. I have a lot of content, a lot of plans and stuff to make. There's a bunch of builder quests that I'm working on. I think my next video is, I forget which one's next on the list. It might be a Leyedd build, or it might be a Get Sword build. I have to look at the list again. I don't know off the top of my head. But yeah, so thank you everyone. I hope you found this video helpful. My name is Diabetor, and I will catch you later.